Not yet. Commissioner Lugo said she would.
All right, I call to order the August 18 Arts Commission meeting commencing at 7 o'clock. First, do a roll call.
Okay. Commissioner Andrews is absent today. Commissioner Andrus? Commissioner Burig?
Here.
Commissioner Carlson?
Here.
Commissioner Jones?
Here.
Commissioner Lugo? She needs to be admitted. There we go. Connect. As soon as Commissioner Lugo can connect, we will go back to her. Commissioner Planton?
Here.
Commissioner Wilson?
Here.
Commissioner Woodward?
Here.
And Commissioner Lugo, we just were calling roll, and just as you came in, so if you could say here.
Here, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Perfect. So we will next approve the minutes of our July 21st, 2022 meeting.
What happened last time? It was a good meeting.
So I move to approve.
Yeah, I'm good with, I second, to go officially.
Okay, all those in favor of approval of the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Very good.
And Commissioner Lugo raised her hand to say that aye.
Thank you.
I think.
And if there's any public comment, we open to that.
There is no public or online or in the room.
And then presentation, Clackamas County Arts Alliance is not present.
Yeah, unfortunately, they were not able to make it. And so we want to find out if we want to reschedule for September or October. It would be up to you on which way you would want to go. She would be open either way.
We put a pin in it until we see what we need to do for the day? Sure. We can
Totally
circle
agree.
back.
Yeah.
All right, and into our discussion items. First item is budget allotment.
Before we begin the budget allotment, the reason I'm here because I recognize that you're at a very important crossroads as you deliberate how to promote the arts in Oregon City. Very important crossroads. And to remind you that Daniel and I are here to advise you, to help you, to answer your questions, and of course, providing assistance as much assistance as we can in order to help with the meetings and progress of the whole initiative here. But I wanted to take a few minutes to say that the Arts Commission, you are a commission. I just wanted to emphasize that you're a commission. And you're not a 501c3 private nonprofit that you'd have to worry about paying employees or wages or light bills or those kind of things. You're actually you're part of the government now. And so therefore, you are serving as an advisory committee basically to the City Commission. Now, I say all of that because the activities that you undertake really should be focused on policies to support the arts in Oregon City, and some major initiatives, big picture things, to support the arts in Oregon City. For example, for instance, grants, small grants to organizations or artists who want to, who very well may want to assist by submitting proposals to putting up or establishing art on public lands owned by the city. That would be one of those big picture promotion, because you're really benefiting the entire city by promoting the arts through that kind of stewardship. Another example that is important to consider is that programs that support the arts in the school system is a big picture issue. Things such as that. Can you imagine, we have a Parks and Recreation Commission. And can you imagine the Parks and Recreation Commission in its support of the parks and recreation, all of them getting together and putting up playground equipment? It's not going to happen. And it shouldn't happen because they're supposed to, that's not their role. Could you imagine that the city commission itself, in support of certain kinds of initiatives, such as maybe an initiative that supports the baking industry, I'm just using it as an example, baking cakes and selling them at a bake sale? That's not going to happen. It's not their role. So I say all that you say that your role is one of policy. Your role is one of big picture initiatives in support of the arts. And so therefore, it's important to focus on that kind of thing. Now, I do know that you care about how the public views you. You want the public involved and engaged in what you do here. But let's be real. There are two things the average citizen cares about. When they show up to any commission meeting, whether it's the city commission meeting, or Parks and Rec Commission, or Planning Commission, most citizens show up because either they have a complaint or they want something in support of a program or initiative that they have, which is all appropriate. But if everything is going fine, crickets. And that's just the truth. And that's the way it works. It's important that the Arts Commission engage also in big policy issues like equity and inclusion through the arts. Because these are big picture issues. And it in essence it shows a change in Oregon City by promoting the arts for a community that has not provided the arts in that way. So, so in concluding my statements, I emphasize to you that as you proceed with your deliberations, keep this in mind as you go forward, and not be so concerned about being noticed so much. Do the work. You'll be noticed. And I think that's the important thing to do.
Well, we thank you for your thoughts, and I think what was generated at the last meeting, I think we understand the general idea, and these are just ideas that would be presented to the commissioners, city commissioners, just for us trying to have recommendations into what we think focus should be on. But we will have a further discussion if there's anyone else interested.
I think what I'd like to do, if I could, would be to go over the staff report and
Yes,
then
please.
go from there, and then that hopefully will then lead to all the rest of the discussion.
Yes, sounds good.
So the request for me from the Arts Commission was to help create and craft some distribution elements that would allow us to say, finally, we've like, okay, we want to put this amount of money into one bucket, this amount of money into one bucket, and then this amount of money into another bucket, so that we can then have a goal to say, okay, well, now we know that this is how much we got to spend, this is what we're going to go. So as you can see on page 2 of the first staff report, I created 4 options. Just trying to make sure that I created some form of a theme that went with it, so that we had it focused on the public projects, the arts grants, and the community research, which has been a discussion that we've had over the last few months. And I just put together some dollar values that I feel kind of I think Commissioner Burek has brought up this oftentimes about trying to figure out how much we can put into those buckets. So I created buckets and put money in them. So I think after that, I do want to make the recommendation that we go with the allotment of option 2. It would be the most visible and positive impact to the Oregon City citizens of the work associated with the Arts Commission, and could garner the most positive support from our local art community. And now it's in your court.
I would say 2 or 3. I kind of lean toward a little bit more towards a little bit more from the grants, because that could have a more direct community support application that I think would be really effective. And it's something that we haven't really had in Oregon City, grants specifically for the arts for Oregon City specifically, as opposed to there's Clackamas County Art Alliance, which does their, countywide thing. But those are, I mean, it's the entire county, and I think to have that specifically for us, I don't know, I like that idea. But I'm flexible, I'm open to conversation. That it's only a $5,000 difference between 2 and 3 as far as the grant programming versus public projects. Public projects, I think, are fun, but I think grants really move the economy and the communities here that need funding forward.
I'd like to add, first of all, I really appreciate seeing the 3 buckets and having this conversation about.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, it makes the conversation a little more focused. I too like the option 2 and or option 3. I do think, one, I'm glad that there is the arts grants bucket, and knowing that there's the bucket, we can kind of move forward with that. I do think that it's important for us to do the community research before we dive too deep into the public projects. It's just part of what I have thought in my head. And I too would, it is kind of interesting because I want to know, like, what size grants are people looking for and what would be helpful to them. And so that's where I don't know. So like, and maybe the individual commissioners might have a better understanding, do you think people will be coming in and asking for $5,000? Do you think they'll be asking for $1,000? I just don't even have a concept of what that might look like. So that might also be helpful as we think about these buckets. But my priority has always been the grants program. So I'm more inclined to say $20,000 for the grants program and $15,000 for the public art.
I would just say that for small nonprofits, usually the bottom rung of an amount of a grant that we would even take the time to apply for would be like $2,000, and grants generally aren't meant to be the full budget for whatever you're asking for. It's anywhere from 50 to 20, 30%. So if we provide them $2,000, it could be for a project that costs $5,000 to $6,000 to execute. As far as like the example of the scale of something we would be funding, and then anything beyond that. If we did 3,000 or 5,000 or varying amounts, then it just adds to the scope of that. But I mean, that's just something that we would decide in the process.
Commissioner Lugo just raised her hand, so Karen, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, go
Okay,
ahead.
you off, go ahead.
That's right.
Yeah, so I just wanted to say that of all the options, I think that no disrespect, Daniel, because I really value your opinion, and first of all, I want to thank you so much for putting this together at our request. But I just did want to say that I think, I did want to say that I do think that I probably lean more towards option 3 as well, because I feel like giving more money toward grants is probably a higher priority item, and I think it's something more doable right now. And plus, we have people on our commission who are so knowledgeable in the area of grants and grant writing and grant giving. So I would probably vote for option 3.
Are we wanting to make a vote today of what we prefer?
I could
or
keep talking about my opinion, but I don't think that would be helpful.
Is that something we can even do?
Yeah, this is the place.
This is the
Or
place,
could we,
this is the
I would love to
time.
hear what everybody thinks. Are you guys agreeing, disagreeing? 1, 2, 3? Can everybody just let us know what you're thinking before we even vote?
I'm leaning more towards number 3 at this point because I think grants, along with what Commissioner Lugo just said, seems more feasible for our group with the way we've been working together and the timeline we have ahead of us. We seem to have that knowledge base, so that seems more feasible to me.
Yeah, I also am supporting 3, which probably is not a surprise because I think I supported that in our last meeting too.
I support number 3 as well. If you consider that the research is going to essentially kind of lead into the public projects, then you can consider that almost 20,000 total, and then it's more evenly split among the 2 programs. So, yeah, and also I think, like people have mentioned, it gets things going in parallel, so we could work on our public projects while the grants funding gets distributed, and multiple projects make a larger impact in the community. So.
I would agree for all the points that you just mentioned. And yeah, I appreciate you putting this together. I appreciate the clarity about our role. And I caught some of the snippets of the conversation from the last meeting. I appreciate the conversation that y'all had about that.
It was a good meeting. We had a good meeting.
Yeah, I'm sorry I couldn't be there.
That's okay.
I was in a
We
place
ended
with no
on
internet.
time. It was epic.
Wow. But anyway, yeah, it makes a lot of sense to put our main focus on the grants program. And I agree that the community research and the public projects kind of do go hand in hand. And it does give us the opportunity to have multiple things happening at once.
Not that I need to convince anybody at this point, but the grants program, it does facilitate public projects. It's just public projects that the community is then taking the initiative to do, which is what I really like.
If I could add one comment, one element that I know James and I have had conversations about is the impact on the community. I'm not exactly sure, since I've never been in the arts grant world, when you guys get awarded a grant, do you actually just make the art and sell it, or do you actually have to, is there a requirement to actually display the art? And that's kind of where we were like, we really want to make sure that it has, we'll work on trying to get it displayed at the library or City Hall or those locations so that it does have that impact.
It depends on the grant and whether it's going to an individual, an individual artist or an arts organization, and what the project's for. So if it was an individual artist, which was I think you were referencing, then they are usually asked to promote the grantor in their process and to make the public aware that their project was funded. And usually there's some sort of exhibition or public output that is funded through that grant, not just them making stuff and having it in their house. Like usually it's an exhibition or some end thing. And then if it was if it was a nonprofit, then it would be a larger project, like the Arts Festival or the Artist Residency, or working with youth in the community, or a mural, or something that's very already just inherently community focused.
Well, and if I can add too,
Yes.
you can add stipulations for where it is displayed or permanently displayed or
Yeah.
temporarily displayed too. So if you wanted something at the library and you were putting up a grant specifically to help get a piece there, that would be a stipulation you could add.
And that's it kind of actually James and I's conversation was, there was like, we just, if it's displayed for 6 months and then they
Yeah.
can sell it and do whatever they want
Yeah.
with it after that stage, it
Yeah.
seemed like a good fit for the city to
That would be
benefit.
such a fun opportunity too. 6 months of publicity through the city and then you can sell it on your own.
Yeah, like an example, my nonprofit did what we called micro grants to nonprofits and socially responsible businesses for them to purchase art from artists in the community to go on public display. So the artists in the community had their artwork purchased and then put on public display within their community, and then the business or nonprofit then owned artwork of value to have in their space. So as an example of like how it can layer within the community.
Question now, with public projects, and if you provide a grant for a public project, for instance, give you an example, there is the new proposed courthouse that the county is looking at. They're looking for art.
Do they have a percent for the arts for that?
Say again?
Do they have a percent for the arts requirement for that project?
Do they? I don't know. Do they?
Yeah.
So it's possible for someone to come before this commission, or the commission itself, I should say, can put out an RFP after some discussion with the county, to put out some type of RFP that says that we've been asked by the county to commission some art, and we're asking the public, those in the arts community, to step forward and submit their drawings or whatever in order to promote what they want to see and what they feel that would propel and promote the arts on that site. And it would be up to you to decide which one of those ideas would work, and then you could obviously provide a grant to help with that effort.
Well, wouldn't the percent for the arts cover the cost for that?
Again,
Wouldn't the 1% for the arts budget for that cover the cost?
it all depends on the cost of the art. Some art can be quite expensive.
Yes.
And you're talking about mammoth pieces. That it very well may not cover all of it. But I guess I'm speaking in situations where the art, or situations there are going to be projects coming forth, hopefully, in this city, on public property that the city owns, and it's going to be looking for art.
Yeah.
And the parks itself, our parks.
Oh, the parks, okay.
They're open. Our park system is open to having art displayed on its property.
Yeah.
So there are all kinds of things that can be done. Now, when you spend money, when you spend public funds for that kind of thing, the art obviously belongs to the city. So that's a public project.
Yes, I would agree, that would fall under public projects.
That's a public project.
Yeah.
When you use, and you have to be careful when you spend public money, and the artist, and you're paying basically an artist to do, or commissioning an artist to do some of that. You have to ask the question: does that art really belong to them? Does it actually is
What do you
public
mean?
money? For instance, there are situations, like for instance, even the federal government. If the federal government gives you money to do a project, say an art project, there's a situation where you actually don't really own the art. It belongs to the federal government.
Right, yeah, actually, Multnomah County owns some of my artwork, so I am kind of familiar with the situation.
Okay, so you know.
They own 3 or 4 pieces.
So you see that situation. So
Yeah.
you can't sell that art because it doesn't belong to you.
But that's part of the stipulation.
Right.
The grant agreement, right?
Right.
Whether or not we add that is.
Yeah, Yeah, once it's purchased by whoever purchased it, the city, the county, whatever, then it is theirs to own, and the artist relinquishes that work.
There was a really great piece on PBS NewsHour yesterday, and it was about art in public hospitals and public settings, and the whole, there's a whole, or I think it was around the time of FDR, where there was like these murals that were put in these public places, and there's a Keith Haring mural on the walls of inside of this Brooklyn hospital, and it's permanent. It's a part of that hospital. And there's an art therapist a pioneer in art therapy that put together a mural inside one of these spaces that was depicting it was amazing. And there's this art therapist that's currently did this mural with community members, and they all designed the mural together, and it was all about bringing people together and reflecting on the experiences of people during COVID. And it was painted by the community, designed by the community, and displayed in the community. It was really powerful, so I highly recommend it. I can share you the link if you want to share it out.
Yeah. Yeah, no, these are all great. We just have to do our research and figure out what's right for Oregon City.
So yeah, so what we're discussing here is just the allocation, right? Where we still have, next steps would be defining our grant program.
Right.
And then our public, okay.
Choose the bucket.
And the city did say they had infrastructure for administering that through a previous grant experience.
Yeah, so
Oh, okay.
we would help
So we're not starting
craft it,
from
but you would help
scratch.
define what those parameters are.
Got it.
Is our fiscal year starting in August?
It started July 1st.
July 1st, okay.
We have,
The clock's ticking.
this is, we're trying to impress upon you. We're at a critical juncture where if
Yeah.
we need to move
We can
forward.
vote, I can vote right now.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
Okay, well, let's vote on
I mean, we don't
budget
really have to.
allotment option 3.
So someone would need to move.
Someone may need to make a motion.
I can make a motion that we move forward with the proposed budget option number 3 on page 2 of the staff report.
I second.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And Commissioner Lugo raised her hand.
Perfect. Any opposed? Perfect. We have a budget allotment, option 3.
Well done,
It's so easy when we agree.
Okay, next topic is survey distribution.
So you have a staff report in front of you, specifically breaking out the cost of a past, mainly we've done several of these surveys where we can connect them. Either we can provide them a full, either one page or two, both sides. The cost comes up a little bit higher on those, or we can also provide a card where it has a QR code that allows them to jump to it, or a URL as well, so they can, if they're on their computer and not on their phone, and then they can download the survey there, and we can also have it strategically placed at the various locations throughout the city, like the city library, the city hall.
Can we pick a couple of those options
Pardon me?
as opposed to what, like how many of those options do we get to pick?
Well,
like,
so just based
From the
on,
menu.
yeah, so
that-
based on the report, our staff recommendation is that we do a 1/3 with the QR code scan and the URL, because it's the most cost effective. It's only $1,025. Please keep in mind that we also need to dedicate some time to compile data, be able to extrapolate the data to find out what it actually tells us, the reporting for that. And then we also need just the time to create the necessary questions for the report. Commissioner Lugo just raised her hand.
Commissioner Lugo, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I would also recommend that we follow there was also a mention in the letter of an additional $295 for 1,000 hard copies to distribute. And I'd recommend that we add that on to the 1,025.
I actually added that in, so that is,
so that's
that
part
is
of the
included. I'm sorry I didn't
1,025?
bring that out in there. Actually, I did. It said, and distributing physical surveys at key locations. So,
Do you feel like you get more from digital surveys versus paper?
Commissioner Planning, you have a thought on
No,
that?
I do a lot of surveys with groups, and the paper ones work well if you're right there with them, but if you're mailing them out, they're gonna go recycling. The digital ones seem to be better just because people are on their phones, they can download it and, you know, look at it later. So I would recommend a digital copy, and it also maybe just saves paper if we wanna be environmentally conscious.
What's your experience with more senior citizens and their digital application capabilities? What do you recommend there?
Well, when I think senior, I think two distinct groups. I think of my parents and I think of my parents' parents. So my parents are gonna have more issues with it, but I don't know if they'll be the ones that'll be answering the survey anyway. My parents' generation would be more apt to answering the survey, and I think they would be technology, capable enough to fill out a digital survey. It really depends on the platform that we use and the interface, but for the most part, if it's simple, they do those online quizzes and stuff that you get on Facebook or whatever all the time. It's the same kind of thing, so.
And I reached out to the senior center manager to ask, kind of get her sense of it. And she was really like, we would probably want a stack of them here and just, we have staff who can help them get through it if they have a question or something. We just need to have a little heads up and go through it ourselves beforehand. So I thought that was an interesting bit of information for us.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
I do think it's nice to have the different options, right? And because I could see them being at the library or, the senior center, or different locations that people maybe congregate. For those folks who are less comfortable, clicking a link and going online. But I do think that we'll end up finding that we get more responses from the online. So.
Go ahead. I was gonna ask a question. Off the top of your head, do you know what the demographic is in age brackets in Oregon City?
Yes, to answer your question, yes. That was good. But actually, there's two large chunks of age brackets. Individuals between the ages of 18 to 30 is a big chunk, which is nice to see. Also, the other large chunk are people who are 55 plus, 55 to 70. That's another big chunk. Now, we've done some surveys. Economic Development has done some surveys when it comes to the issue. The topic was fiber optic connectivity. We used the utility bill. And so it went out to everybody. And the response was very good. So we received a lot of paper responses back. So that's a good venue to use. And it's I think it's $300 to distribute it through the mail that way.
No, actually, that's the 1,025.
It's one, oh yes, 130, oh yes, 1,000.
Yeah.
I still do really like that option because of the broad range of demographic that it would reach.
Yeah, the way they described it, because I had to contact the firm that does it, is that we could choose to have a really bright pink or orange or whatever color to make it stand out, and then it would be a black layered, the QR code type of thing, and it's cardstock rather than just loose paper, so it tends to draw attention, and that's kind of what they did with the survey. They did it as a 2-page survey, and they got a big stack of them, so.
Could it be an image instead of a color? Just something that would imply art?
Yeah, it could be, the key element for us to keep the cost down would have been it could be just black on whatever color, so it could be whatever design you would want. I can even embed a cool design into the QR code as well, so. That.
It doesn't have to be fancy. I'm just trying to think of something that would infer that it's not related to their utility bill. You know what I mean?
The $1,400 quote that's down a little bit, the $744 additional, so it's only like 13 $15 more or $14 more, is a full color on a white stock.
And so, and we had in our budget number 3, we had 5,000 on that, and so even if we spent half of that, that would be like every option here, but we're not gonna do that. But I think we should do the option that's gonna get us the most effective results.
Would email also be, would this be emailed to people too?
Or newsletter?
We'll have to look into that one, because I think that one's a little easier for me to just throw in. I just create a graphic and add it to that. But I'll need to, unfortunately, I'll have to come back to you, but I'll probably just, so that we don't delay this too much, I'll just send you an additional element and through the mail, and if there's any concerns, then we can.
Yeah, I think it would be great at the October Arch Bridge celebration to have a booth for people to scan the
Or
QR code.
if there's a booth already gonna be there, that we could then have that information.
And if I'm remembering right, I have paperless billing, so I didn't see the, but I did see it as, I think it was like through Facebook, if I'm remembering, like a link, and because I follow all the city things somewhere, because I remember filling out the survey online. So I'm just wondering about that, like
Yeah,
for
that's
folks
really
that are.
easy.
Yeah.
To be able to create a Facebook, Instagram campaign. That also allows me to target specific zip codes, which is Oregon City only.
Wait,
So-
question, sorry.
No, you're fine.
They would still include people who are paperless, wouldn't they, in this mailing? For
But they wouldn't get the mail because they're paperless.
But
Yeah,
it's
it's
using
just-
their address on file, right?
But they,
I'm sure it's included in there. I'm just like paying my bill. So I'm not looking at I'm not actually looking at just looking at how much I owe, to be honest.
I think when they get their bill in email form, it includes an attached PDF. I had a friend, someone I knew that was actually part of the garbage services in Seattle, and he said no one ever clicked on those because it was just an attachment. They already said we were paperless. They didn't want anything else other than to say, how much do I have to pay? And so they got a very low response on theirs.
So I guess I'm a little confused. We would, one idea, the staff recommendation idea is to send this 1/3 size cardstock notice with a QR code and a link to the survey. And it would go to everybody's address who is
has agreed to receive mail.
only agreed to receive mail from the utility company.
So that's gonna skew our results to people of
Yeah,
probably a higher age bracket.
I don't know, I get mail from
I
you.
don't.
From them.
Save the trees.
Yeah,
I do think the complimentary, what folks were saying,
yes,
if you do that social media push out,
Yeah.
you're gonna be able to.
Social media, I wonder, the signage or something at events that they can scan, but then maybe we want to do it instead of just, for $295, 1,000 hard copies. I would almost suggest just bumping that up to 2,000.
Wait, what?
So
I
that
thought
there's
we were-
more, so that at events that we're going to where maybe we see more young families, right, in attendance
Yeah.
with kids and stuff, that there's copies there, and also the QR code, right?
Yeah, I thought it just contradicted what you were saying before about.
Well, yeah, but I wasn't thinking about the fact that if we're sending it out to people who are getting paper copies of their bills only, there's gonna be a lot of young people that have all gone paperless, right? They just go online, they pay it, or like me, I think mine's automatic payment, so it just takes it out of my account. I don't even really look at it until the end of the month. So if they even emailed me, I don't really look at it. So yeah,
So
that's
let me see if I got this right. So our layers would be the paper card that comes in the mail for those that have agreed to get mail from their utility, the potentially the email, the Facebook or social media, and then hard copies of some quantity.
Yeah.
Is that correct? Is everybody?
yeah, maybe we take the 1,000 that are going to be printed hard copies, and a portion of those get distributed during the Arch Bridge celebration or some other like public event.
You can give them out at the concerts in the park or something, because I would
Yeah.
think you'd get,
I think those are ending soon.
I think we're down to one more.
oh, okay, well then.
Well,
It might be tonight.
Yeah.
Just.
I guess my concern with the hard copies is they're gonna be very specific to whatever event that you're going to, like the demographic will be very specific to who shows up for that celebration or who shows up for that event, as opposed to going wider.
when are you wanting the results by?
When do we want the results?
Well, considering we have 11 months to implement.
Well, Commissioner Lugo?
Can we also distribute them at the farmer's market?
That's a good one, yes, thank you.
There's a lot of opportunities. We just had an art festival last weekend. That was a missed opportunity.
We're getting there, one step at a time.
How many people are we hoping to hear back from? And if we don't have good results or we have better results in one area or another, then could we send it out again or make more copies?
So just from my data knowledge, you have to have a specific set. So once I know from the organization of how many bills they send out, I would know how many sets are in that group at least. And then we would just probably add the hard copy set to the number set and to be able to create the percentage of return. I believe that 8% is the standard return rate, but we would probably, as we're seeing with the digital or the fiber optic project, we're seeing probably a little bit higher of a return on that. But that's, again, one of the things that I deal with in my data sets often for analytics is that any data is better than no data. But a good data set still has to be a sizable amount of people to be able to get true results. Well, as true as results as you're going to get.
Are we ready to make a vote?
Our
Or
choice.
any
I
further
don't know if
discussion
we vote on it or,
of the budget for $1,025?
oh, I thought we were, was that the total?
For the
Did we, I think we added to that, didn't we?
Yes.
I want to understand there's two options. There's the 1400 version or the 1025 version.
I thought we had the 1025 and the 14 together.
1025 does have distributing physical surveys at key locations, so I'm taking that as it has a certain amount of.
Right, but I thought it didn't include the utility bill.
No, it does.
Oh, okay, okay.
It does.
So,
Yeah,
Perfect,
the actual
okay.
difference is 730 is for the black print on a high contrast color stock.
Okay.
And then 744 is if we wanted to go to a full color print on a hard white cardstock. And
Flip
then
the page over.
295 was the quote for from our local printer to be able to do 1,000 hard copies. So you could say in your motion that we would like to do X,
Upgrade.
X, and then X.
yeah, so maybe we start with, because in my opinion, the full color is better than the black on,
Absolutely.
Color.
We are the art commission.
yeah, so I figured that would be better. And then maybe start with 1,000 copies of 295 if we decide later we want to do another batch. Doesn't take that long to print, so we could just start with 744
yeah.
plus 295.
What he said.
Yeah,
That makes sense to everyone?
yes,
Yes.
seconded.
Well,
I'm sorry,
I'm gonna
so I
add
got Josh's emotion, correct?
well, yeah, tell me what that total is. It's like, it's just
Sorry.
probably
44
1,039.
Too many numbers.
1,039.
Yeah, not a significant difference there.
So I would make the motion that we approve the proposal to do full color print on 1/3 cardstock, white cardstock for 744, and then 1,000 hard copies of the survey print 295 for a total of $1,039.
I do have a question. Is there an allotment that if they go over it or under, not under, but over, does it have to go to the commission for a budget review? I would presume so, but if
What?
it's over the dollar, like if it winds up being $1,500
Oh, yeah,
versus the
and this being a
1,039.
quote and then it actuals, So let's say that it actually comes back when they actually did the final print, that it was 1,150.
Yeah, tax or something.
Is the question having to do with the amount of money
If it
being
is
spent?
over the dollar amount that we budget today, do we have to approve the over
increase.
budget amount at the next meeting?
Oh, I see what you're saying. If it goes over, well, actually, you'll,
Or should we maybe,
if you get a quote if you get a quote from the vendor, and they agree to receive a certain amount, that's it.
So let me amend my
City's not
motion.
paying them anymore, whether they want it.
Let me amend my motion that we do the full color print on white cardstock and 1,000 hard copies. Pricing to be finalized later, but based on these current estimates, estimated at $1,039, right? So if it goes over to
It sounds like it won't, but
$1,050,
yeah.
go forward with it. Just clarifying that. So that's what my motion would be.
like a budget
Yeah.
of $1,500?
I agree.
We had a motion and a second. We had a motion.
Okay, so do we need a third motion? Please say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Commissioner
No.
Lugo said aye.
Aye, so $1,039. Yay!
We're doing so much.
For the survey.
I did have a question about the trail news that just popped into my head. Is that a monthly publication?
No, it's quarterly. I think.
Quarterly?
Quarterly.
Because that one just came out, right?
Yeah.
So we'd have to
another
wait.
missed opportunity.
Okay.
We're one step at a time.
So,
But maybe for when we have our grants
Yeah.
in order, that's a place to put it.
and I was just, I guess, part of me is assuming, but I guess this is a question, is that at the next meeting, will we have a draft survey or the ability to have topic areas or whatnot? And how do we determine what the
content.
multicolor is
Yeah.
and all of that? How do we get to
For final
the
review.
product that we actually send out to print?
That's a great question.
It's a really great question. We don't have an art commission logo, so I'm not exactly sure what art you would want on that.
Well, first, it would have to be the city seal.
Yeah, the city seal.
Yeah,
But it would be the full color, nice, pretty yellow,
Yeah.
blue.
It would have to be the city seal, and then, in terms of the questions that you would want to ask, staff can come up with a list of questions with some input from you all, offline, one at a time, not through email, but through your own individual email to Daniel, but not through emails through yourselves.
Could we do
Right.
a survey where they could enter a
Survey
variety of
methods?
questions and just keep adding all the questions they want, and then I can compile the
Oh.
list?
Whatever, that's
I'm all
possible.
about job forms, I'm sorry.
But just as long as it's not a communication between these
Yeah.
people. But,
I wouldn't know.
so a list of questions can be developed, staff can put them together, bring them back for your approval.
That would be awesome. And going back to your question about the Trail magazine, if it just came out, then they're probably getting ready, they're probably designing the next one. How do we, Daniel, do you have any communication with them on how we could add something, or do you know anything
So
about that?
actually, I'm allowed to add, so for example, I did the Travel Oregon City ad. It's not an ad, it's just a kind of our logo. We're trying to get our brand recognition out there. So I can create a graphic that does that. So it would be probably something that I can, if they have space, I would have to talk to Lisa from our office here to be able to identify if there's some space available. And if there is, then we could use probably the same elements for what we have on this final piece in that.
Is that something you think we could have for the next meeting too and discuss, just so we'd make their next print
100%,
deadline?
yes.
For the cardstock, just some thoughts if you're gonna be putting together some proposals. I mean, if you have any good images of the existing public art that we have in the city, or any of the recent ones we approved, the murals and stuff,
Oh, yeah.
that would be a good one. Or if it has to be like generic, just picture of Oregon
there
City,
is
the
a-
falls or something, but
It is included in the Trails End,
Which one?
the bookstore.
Which one? They're both books, actually.
Oh, it was a poster, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The giraffe one.
We're just readers, I
Giraffe
guess.
one. We're just.
It's a great suggestion, and I think having a variety of different pieces on that would, in a full color would be good.
Yeah, I like that idea.
idea.
Thank you.
So another thing that I think would be helpful is a timeline for expectations for, okay, here, this is where we would, this is how long it would take to develop this survey. And if we're trying to hit a certain date, like someone was saying the bridge, so that's this October timeframe, and then we want the survey open for, so I'd kind of like a timeline for our
I love it.
We don't want you getting bored, Daniel.
I just think it'll help us also focus our energy, because we can't take too long on the survey, but we want to give it enough time. And we also want it out for a certain amount of time and hit certain dates.
So you might want to develop a schedule for the whole thing.
Yes.
There you go. That's nicely said.
Along with the grants.
I know the Archbridge event is October 1st, so I'm thinking we're probably not going to have it together and printed by October 1st.
I don't know. I think we
can do it right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, we're looking at
That's right.
Frightened Peter here.
I mean, I guess if we have to do like a work group session to go over the survey, we could do that too. Like, if it was required to get it done in time for the October 1st.
And the part of the problem is we have a holiday coming up that's going to throw a lot of scheduling off to be able to even get certain meetings. So a work session would have to fall in between that and, Commissioner Lugo has a thought, but it would need to fall in between those. Those two.
Yeah.
Commissioner Lugo?
Why don't we just have a deadline of like submit questions within a week, and then just empower the staff to put together the survey based on the feedback from us, and let them take care of the rest of it.
During the headlines.
A week is a bit rough for me to get that kind of serious homework done. Maybe 2 to 3 weeks. And these questions are really important.
Yeah, they are important. I agree.
Well, maybe have them in
Okay,
after Labor
maybe
Day.
2 weeks then?
I mean, one thing to maybe save Dana time is there's probably other surveys out there from other municipalities that you could pull from and get a good base going off that.
They just have to be arts-focused questions, which I think will be a little bit harder to find.
Well, didn't they just do a survey, Oregon?
Well, they are actively
The
doing the
Parks
next
and Rec
big one.
one, we do
Yeah,
not
so
want to
there-
copy.
But we can't copy their questions.
No, I'm just saying, what I'm saying is there's examples out there to, don't reinvent the wheel.
Well, let me ask you, when do you want to get the surveys back?
That is a great question.
Yeah, because if it takes 2 weeks, say, for this element, and then
I would
how
think
long
by
are we going
the
to take?
holidays, November.
Yeah, by
I think
Thanksgiving timeframe, because
that's
otherwise
one good-
people's minds go.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Then if you want to get all the survey, if you want to cut off the program by what Thanksgiving, as you say, then you work backwards to develop the schedule. So what we could do is, if you agree that, if you, even through consensus, if you want the survey project stopped and finished before Thanksgiving, say, November the 12th, for example, and then you go backwards, what we could do is staff can put together a draft schedule for the project and also some questions, so that when we meet again, you can look at the schedule and tweak it, and you can look at the questions and tweak those, and then once those are done, then you've got a project, and you're off and running.
Is a survey normally a month long or less than that? 2 months?
Usually it takes a good 60 days
Okay.
for people to respond to you, and you usually give people generally a 60-day minimum, but also you make it clear on the survey when you expect the survey back, and that type of thing.
So
We usually get a
so end
very
of
large
September, we
blast at
would
the very
like to-
beginning of the survey, but it's amazing how long it will continue. I don't want to say drag out, but how long it actually can have retention. You will still keep getting responders, because they
And
were like,
there's
oh, I meant
many
to do that.
events during that. October 1 is the Arch Bridge, and then October later in Halloween, they're doing a festival here in Oregon City.
So it sounds like we need to come up with our questions and agree upon them in our next meeting, which is going to be in a month. So if we submit the questions for suggested questions and then they bring questions and we choose them next meeting. And that's, we just commit to doing that because we need that full 60 days. We can't really push it any farther unless we're going to do a work session in short order in addition to our meeting, which I don't necessarily see as being helpful.
Commissioner Lugo?
My only concern about waiting until the next meeting is, will it be enough time for us to get it in for the Arch Bridge Festival on October 1st?
Well, the bridge one is gonna be handouts, right, and then the QR code, so that's just printing. So, I mean,
I think if I create the URL, I know we're diving into a lot of details here, but if I create the URL ahead of time, I can create the QR code ahead of time and then work with our printers to be able to create a poster stock level QR code so that when we're at the event, they would have that. So we would at least need to have the survey already done, but we'd have all the prep work already in works so that it would be available.
And it looks like, on the calendar, sorry, our next meeting happens to be the 15th. It's got, it's scheduled, so it's gonna be like right in the middle of the month. So it kind of comes early, and then that gives us like the 2 weeks to do formatting and doing all of that before
Is that enough
October
time?
1st.
If we wanted to get it out by September 27, for example?
I believe, definitely.
So I wonder if we can plan to pull together some questions at least a week before the meeting, so then we can vote on them in the meeting itself.
So what I'll do is actually tomorrow, I usually work from home, so I have time to focus on stuff. I can definitely put together the tool to be able to collect the survey questions so that we could do that and then send it out probably either late that afternoon or first thing on Monday to be able to get that going so we could start collecting those questions.
I'm wondering also, we have like a half hour, right?
Yeah, we could do some questions right now.
Well, I guess I was just thinking, like, are there like key topic areas that we want to explore? So maybe we can just brainstorm like what those areas are, and then we can formulate some questions later around those topic areas.
I support that idea. Let's hone what our topic is so that we
Early
don't
otherwise.
go off.
Yeah.
how many questions on the survey would you want? 10?
you don't wanna take in more than 2 to 5 minutes, so
Yeah.
10 would be.
10 sounds, I can agree with 10. Any
Commissioner
objections?
Plankton, I have a question about your not feasibility study, the strategic plan. Would we want to at least include a couple of those questions that you would want for the strategic plan in this, just so that we can start collecting that kind of data?
I mean, we could, but I think that maybe this is gonna lead more into the strategy plan than the strategy plan leading into it, right? It's kind of what comes first, or egg. I think if we pick the topics and we go with it, I mean, this is our first survey. We have 5,000 dedicated to research. If we needed to launch another one later after the strategy plan, then we could. I mean, this is only costing us less than half the allocated budget that we have for it, so we could do another one in the spring.
And the next trail. News?
Oh, yeah.
So I wouldn't want it to derail the timeline. I think that's more important.
So what information do we need right now based on the timeline of what we're doing as far as the grant programming or other projects that we want to move forward with?
So I am interested in what people would like or how they would use grants from the Art Commission, or, just to kind of get an idea of what, how they think the city should be spending that through grants, or, I don't know. I think that should be a topic area that gives us guidance to our grant program. questions that would help us shape the grant program, maybe I put it that way.
Public art awareness. What are people familiar with of the public art as it stands currently in Oregon City? What would they like to see changed?
I wonder if framing something around rank and order of kinds of public art that you'd like to see in Oregon City, whether it's murals or sculptures or performance art or whatever.
Events.
Yeah.
Commissioner Lugo?
Yeah, on the survey that the Parks Department sent out, you know, they did the, most of the questions were like questions where you rated a statement. Like, you know, you use the parks very often, rate 1 through 10. And so one question I would like to ask is, I would like to be sure that there's a question somewhere in there, like about an arts center. I'm not sure exactly how to say it yet, but I'm hoping that the commission would support putting at least one question in about an arts center. Like, is that a priority for you? Would you use an arts center? You know, something like that. I'm not sure how to say it yet, but I'd like to have at least one question dedicated to that.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like a few questions on public art and the community's experience with that and how they value and see public art. I would say also like art events, art related events, and how they connect with art out there in the community. An art center, maybe 2 questions, just because it's hard to kind of, you gotta like ask the first one and then get it to like clarify it in the second of like, I think as far as the grant funding, it's a little tricky because we're not asking organizations, we're asking individuals. So we have to think about, well, what do the individuals need that then those organizations could support? So we have to think about how do we focus the questions so that we can then focus the grant money to support what their interests are. Does that make sense to everybody? Like, I don't know what that question would be, but how do we ask the individuals what community organization support they need? Like, whether is it youth art support? Is it, I don't know.
Yeah, you could say, is it youth art support? Is it more public projects like at the new courthouse or something like that? Or is it more events, social activities?
Priorities, maybe it's a question about what their
Prioritization.
priorities.
Yeah.
Well, and where they want to see it might be another
Yes.
way to do this. Like,
Yes.
do you want to see it, I don't know, more in schools, more in parks, more in businesses, like indoors, outdoors?
Yeah, I like that.
Is it important for the commission to know sort of like the baseline age range, income range, male, female? I don't know if that information important to you.
I personally like having demographics with the different surveys.
I'm just gonna speak straight out and say that, sorry, I've been raising my hand all the time, I'm just gonna respond to that directly. I'd like to say that, I think that what's really important in this survey is we're trying to gauge a sense of like where the community, like at what level is the community engaged in art, and what do they want from, you know, like arts activities in the community. So I think the demographics really do matter. Actually, and I think that.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Lugo, you're breaking up, so I wasn't able to hear that last sentence.
Oh, she was on to something too.
Yeah.
White males in their 40s.
Commissioner Lugo, if you can repeat, please.
Sorry. You cut out Commissioner Lugo, and so all we heard at the end was white male 40s.
Sorry. I was just saying that I think that asking demographics really is important because we need to make sure that we're applying an equity lens to the surveys and that we're making sure that this is at least representing, you know, a diverse group of respondents in our community. We may find that there's things that people think of that we never thought of. You know, they might say, oh, hey, I'd really like this going on here. And we'd be like, oh, this is something, this is a chance for us to listen to the community. So we should have questions that are really open-ended that give the community a chance to really give their input to us about what they want.
I like that. I also wonder, should we ask if any of the people responding are practicing artists? To get a sense of,
Or in the art
industry
market or community,
somehow.
somehow.
Yeah, because that would give us a sense of, well, how many people, if we're putting grants out for our local artist community,
Are involved in the arts and
then how many people would maybe be using this?
Well, that depends, because if it's an organization, that would be a different question or different answer versus an individual artist.
Sure.
But the survey is primarily targeting individuals.
That's a good point.
I also wonder if there needs to be a little narrative at the front that explains our mission statement and who we are and why we're seeking this information.
Very good point.
And an invite at the end to come and give comments at these.
Oh, there he is.
I do want to bring up though, so open-ended questions are perfect. I think I'm 100% supportive of it. Just be prepared to deal with the negative comments that come out of that. We need to make sure we hear all aspects of it, whether it's positive or negative. So, but just be prepared.
Yeah, I think given that I deal with a lot of surveys and being a program administrator myself, I think having Likert scales and maybe one particular open-ended question, but the majority of them being limited to just filling out a Likert scale or ranking in order or whatever.
Like priority order or something like that. But yeah, I agree, at least one open-ended would be good, so they could just share what they're feeling, but all of that would be hard.
Now, would you be concerned with making sure that you're not leaning toward one particular kind of art? I mean, you have music, you have statues and sculpture.
That's a good point, to make sure that the questions do allow for expressing what interest in different areas of the arts with an S.
Yeah, because I don't know if we've talked about this, but an art center can also include a performance space.
Absolutely.
You know,
And
it
music,
doesn't mean
theater.
just static gallery space.
Usually, the theater would be the primary.
So I don't know if that's helpful to like expound on that when we're asking about people's interest in an art center, because they may not understand.
Define this this hypothetical art center as encompassing, like you were saying, theater, dance, music.
It would be a performing arts center?
Well, I mean,
To include performance?
I guess one question, kind of maybe a step back from that, is we have the art center, but is there other things that people would prioritize over an art center that we should be focusing on more? So I think having art center and then a few other things and say, rank these and what you would want us to focus on as a commission first, and then second, and then third, and then we go from there. Because it could be like, do you want more programs in the public arts or in the public school system in Oregon City? Maybe that's where they want the funding going. You know, or in
we can
arts, or
figure that out, how that question structure would work,
And that would inform our strategic plan and our long-term goals too.
yeah.
Being a parent of a kid that is in a school that doesn't have an art teacher and an art room, I think that's really important. And I also wonder, I know that you had sent email to us giving our profiles for the website. Would this be on a landing page of the website that's associated with our commission? And could we do some kind of PR, like a little video that we could post up there or something, introducing ourselves to just create more traffic? And while they're on that site, they could see, oh, hey, let's fill out this survey to give feedback about, I don't know, just thinking like how to bring more traffic to this survey.
Maybe more focus on our goals than on us specifically, like our mission, because they don't know who we are.
Right.
Or, I mean, like, what we do. More what we do than who we are.
Probably we could do some Facebook promotion and Also promotion on Instagram, some promotion on different kind of venues ahead of the survey, just to educate individuals as to who you are and what you're doing and what the upcoming or pending survey is all about.
Can we ask other groups too to post the survey on their website? So I'm thinking like Downtown Oregon City Association or,
You can always ask.
yeah.
I think we're, yeah.
Cool.
Cool.
Yay!
Questions?
Lots of notes. So I will work on trying to craft a preliminary form so that we can and break some of these out that I've seen in this so that we can then have you guys being able to submit. You may be inspired at 2 a.m. Oh, I thought of this. Then you can just go on there at any time and add more.
Well, thanks.
Sounds good.
2 a.m.
I think
Could it be
you're gonna probably find that you're gonna spend a lot of time wordsmithing the question.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because the way you ask it, it's gonna be extremely important to get the response you expect.
Would the questions be just yes or no, or would they be like
No, I think
Parks
we're
and
like-
Rec questions?
Leaning towards.
I'm sorry, I don't know what the Parks and Rec questions
Oh,
are.
you didn't get the survey?
No. But I mean, is it a scale?
Scale.
Yeah, it was like 5 options.
Okay.
Yeah, priorities, listing different
Multiple
options.
selection, yeah, part,
Yes.
there's gonna be.
It could be a mix of whatever you feel that represents the question or best way to handle a specific set of questions.
Next meeting's gonna be a lot of fun.
Sorry, I was gonna say, do we need to circle back now to the
Yes, the thing we put a
group,
pin in
the
it.
Clackamas County Arts Alliance about for next meeting?
Yes.
Can I just make one more thought on the survey? You know how you'd mentioned other surveys that other people have sent out for other arts? If anybody finds those, can they share them with Daniel so we can take a look at, just see what that language is like?
That way I can put maybe a link on
Yeah.
this form that you guys can, oh yeah, here's the
Right.
2, before you even start filling it out.
That'll be helpful.
Yeah, there's the huge national one that's literally happening right now that we should be mindful of. But yes. Gosh.
Oh, yeah, so the Clackamas County Arts Alliance, just when we want to have them back, one thing that you said, September, October, I'm okay with either, but I was thinking when you were mentioning, I forget actually now who was mentioning it, but we talked about the new project, the new courthouse. Is there someone in Oregon City, and I'm sure there is, but who in Oregon City is the right person to talk to about like, what are all the projects down the pipeline?
I was
And,
gonna share that in my communications at the end.
oh,
But I can share it now.
having them come in and talk about the projects and see where my, our
So first of all, we reached out to the county level coordinator, Gary Barth, and so we were able to reach out to him. I also talked to Clackamas County Arts Alliance as well to find out where they were in the mix, and they're being bombarded with lots of people saying, hey, I'd love to be involved, blah, blah. A judge, someone, all kinds of people wanting to be involved. But I was meeting some friends at Corner 14 for lunch, and we were making a connection with a guy that was sitting next to us, and I swear I'd seen him before, but it turns out I hadn't. But he was one of those faces. But he happened to be the project manager of the construction project for the courthouse, and so he's here. He's actually temporarily relocated here, and I can I had mentioned in that conversation that, the Oregon City Arts Commission wanted to be somehow connected and involved. So
Yeah.
we have created a new line there as well.
Yeah, cool. I want to, make sure they're doing their
So I think we
percent
can-
for the arts.
so is he doing just the courthouse, or is there someone that does multiple ones? So like, who would be the good person to talk about I know that the mill stuff is still maybe on hiatus or whatever, but the person who has that knowledge of, here's all the projects going on, are gonna be coming down or getting final funding locked down now, and, we can start getting ideas of, maybe the courthouse is a good one, but maybe there's another one that's better, that's gonna be more,
You know, and it's nebulous to answer your
Yeah.
question because we very well may be going into recession.
Yeah.
So projects will be delayed. Even, I mean, in my office, economic development, we have a whole list of projects that are on the drawing board. But we also know that the economy will determine a lot of that. And and also approval from the various governing bodies will determine a lot of that. So it may not be helpful for you to get a whole list because it could be, some of those projects may not exist in your lifetime.
True. I guess maybe the question then is, which of those projects seem to be the ones that are likely to happen in the next 2-3 years, right? Or 1-2-3 years, right? Maybe they give us that input so we know we're not banking on the courthouse and the courthouse gets stalled and cuts out for, till I'm my parents' age.
No, but keep in mind that there's some developers and builders that want to keep their projects confidential until such time.
But is it any public project? Public?
I would say we should be aware of the projects that have a % for the arts requirement and whether they are holding true to that and not just asking their architect to make some, because that happens way too much where they don't actually go to artists and don't take the time. So those are the ones I would be more interested in of who has % for the art requirements and are they appropriately honoring that % for the art requirement for their construction project.
Most of the projects that you're going to see are is a combination of the public-private partnerships. So, for give you an example, even the urban renewal projects or district, if it's approved or if it moves forward beyond where it is now, and projects are actually funded, a lot of the properties that are owned by, say, the Urban Renewal Commission are going to be turned over to a developer to develop those projects. So therefore, it's going to take a while.
Yeah.
Like the Home Depot thing.
Yeah, it's going to
It
take.
seems like our efforts would be better spent maybe just making sure they are aware of the opportunities we're creating for artists if they need grant money or public art support. Since, again, we can't anticipate even when they might be really done
Already.
or ready.
It's going to be a little difficult for that.
Do you have anything else, Daniel?
No, that was just because of Commissioner Clanton's conversation, triggered my communication on that.
So maybe we suggest having our visitors come in October since our September meeting is going to involve the survey analysis and commitment.
I seem to recall when we first started meeting, there was someone that talked with us about a survey of Oregon City. Do y'all remember that?
I think it was Commissioner Wilson's, where they were having this bigger arts.
Yeah, the big arts economic survey it started right now.
So it's happening as we speak?
It is, but it's a larger national survey.
Okay. So there
And it's
isn't
art
data from
specific.
that we can look at yet?
No, the one that's currently out is old, and the one that's just started won't be completed for a year. It's a year-long survey, so we'll need a whole new survey by the time that one's finished. I think I brought it up because of survey fatigue and an awareness that the arts community, this survey is big and long and way more than 10 questions. And we'll be receiving that in our inboxes at the same time as our survey.
Commissioner Lugo?
When the Arts Commission first started meeting, we talked about the Oregon City 2040 survey, which was a year-long survey that was completed. And it's part of our long-term strategic planning now for Oregon City. And you're welcome to look at it. I mean, we did have someone from OC 2040 come in and give us a presentation. And I think it was pretty clear from that presentation that they didn't really spend much time looking intensively at the arts. So I don't know how much use the survey will be for arts-related inquiries, but it is a good community survey.
I think that's actually what I was thinking of, because I remember somebody kept coming in and presenting. Where would we find that information, the results of that survey? Because I would be curious just to see who responded and what kinds of input they gave.
So I can reach out.
So it's part of, okay, thank you, go ahead, Ben, sorry.
I can reach out to Aquila and get where that information is publicly accessible and send that to everyone as an addendum to today's meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else before we adjourn?
Do we need to agree on our visitors coming October? Is that everybody's?
That doesn't need to be voted.
Well, I know, I'm just making sure we didn't glaze over it without making that, like,
No, I think September's
October's a
gonna
good
be
September's
a full
full.
meeting.
Okay, okay, okay.
October it is.
We done?
All
we
right,
done, really? Oh my God.
8:20.
Can I give a little quick, very
Yeah.
quick? Okay. I attended the Archbridge meeting last week, I think.
Thursday. Yeah, last
Yeah,
Thursday.
Thursday. And we're hoping to have commissioners just be available that day to attend the event if they are able. Essentially, there's going to be an artist, that's the Oregon City artist, will be on one side of the bridge. The native artist is in the middle, and the Westland artist is on the other side. And just trying to get the public to participate in coloring in little like blocked out parts of the design that's the shape of the bridge. And hopefully we can promote the work that we're doing in the
What's the date of this?
October 1st. It's a Saturday.
Who's in charge at the city for this? I visited their website earlier this week, and it's still in progress for like signing up to be a vendor. Or
So
what?
the Arch Bridge celebration is sponsored by both cities. So both
Okay.
Westland and Lake Oswego. I mean, Westland and Oregon City.
I had heard
Yeah, it was like somehow it got bigger than it should have done. Sorry.
City Commissioner McGriff and Smith are the people.
So the bridge will be closed that day, and they're also closing some of the parts of downtown for like vendors and stuff.
Oh, fun day to walk the bridge. October 1st.
Let's not survey the people stuck in traffic.
Commissioner Lugo?
Yeah, one of the things that we did last meeting that I thought was a nice thing to do was give the commissioners a chance to talk about if they have anything coming up, any kind of work coming up, anything that they'd like people to know about. I think that was actually Daniel's suggestion from last month, and
And
I
actually,
was wondering if we could do it again.
I got it from the city commissioners too, because they go around and each
Yeah,
one
let's
says
do
if
it.
they've
Let's
got
go
any
around the
projects
room.
going on.
Do you
So
have any
that's the little
projects or-
communication side.
Yes.
Well,
So.
Who would like to go first? Jen?
Sure. So everybody's invited to a day of paper, my paper making studio on August 7th, August 27th, it's a Saturday from 1 to 6. And we're gonna be making paper with folks and doing little plant walks. I have these flyers with the address on it, which is not public because it's also my house. So if you want to attend, you have to email me. So I'll give you a flyer, but if anyone else wants to attend, pulpandeckel.com, it's a free, open to the community event. Yeah, I just don't want to put my home address out on blast for the world.
I don't have any updates. No updates?
That's okay.
I have 2 updates then, maybe making up for you.
Okay, perfect. You're there.
They're both personal, but my first is I just finished my MBA at my second master's at the beginning of the month, so I'm really relieved.
Second one.
And then to dive back into my art practice, I will be at the beginning of the month, September, doing a 2-week residency at Pine Meadow Ranch through the Roundhouse Foundation. So very, very excited about that.
Yay. Congrats.
Oh, I gotta pick something.
Man, where are you gonna start?
Let's see. I'll just talk about our stuff. I don't know. I think I shared it with some people, but we just had a really nice article in Pamplin about the Mary Elizabeth Gallery over at Stephen Crawford and their current exhibition. Really nice write up talking about the artists. And the party. That's the name of the event. It's the party instead of like a traditional art reception where everybody's very stuffy with their wine and their grapes. We were trying to like undo that and just have people gather and be together at the house and the gallery and just hang out and have it be summer. Food and
Artist
games
demos.
and art. Oh yes, the artist demo. See, you should have done this. You would have done this. But so for those of you that missed the last one, just think of like hanging out on the front porch, hanging out in the yard, and there's art there, and it's just gonna be in Oregon City, and there's gonna be all of us community folks, and you should come. And it's gonna
When
be
is it?
September 17th from 2 to 6 p.m.
At the Stephen Crawford Heritage House.
Yes, it's
Two
like
blocks away.
Yes, like 2 blocks from the elevator, 2 blocks from here. You can look on the Art in Oregon Instagram for more information. Or our website,
Under Stephen Crawford.
Stephen Crawford.
Okay.
Or Art in Oregon. I don't know what Stephen Crawford does with their Instagram, but we're the ones organizing it, so
I directed them to your site, so.
yeah.
I don't really have a lot for upcoming, but so flags, we just finished today fabric art camp, 4-day for youth ages 6 to 16. And we had special spinners come to our art center to show them the process of creating, working with wool, and they also practiced felting today. They made fabric paper on Monday.
I don't have any updates.
What?
I shared the Archbridge update.
We're updated.
I only have one update at the Arts Festival, or Festival of the Arts, Oregon City Festival of the Arts was this weekend. The feedback that we're getting from the participants was this was a very, very successful
I agree,
art
it was
show.
really good.
They actually sold a lot of art. One of the artists happened to be featured on our KATU ad buy that we bought for him to get on AM Northwest and Afternoon Live, and she sold out all of her product. So next year, we're gonna make sure that more artists are represented, so they all get the love.
Yeah.
And so,
I agree. I think this was a pivotal year for our art festival. I feel like the first one was like, oh yes, and then the next one, the artists were a little bit disappointed with the turnout and the quality of the work. This one was the exact opposite. And I think now that we have the momentum, I'm really looking forward to our arts festival, like, because artists notice, and then they will get a booth if the festival is successful. And ours was, the parking lot was packed. So look to support them in the future.
Okay, at officially 8:28.
oh, Commissioner Lugo.
Oh, I don't see your hand up.
I know, but maybe she had a.
Commissioner
she was
Lugo,
just
I'm
waiting for
sorry,
her
did you
turn.
have something you wanted to share? I'm sorry.
Oh, sure. Let's see. So, for me, this month, I interviewed this really amazing hip hop artist. Her name is Bitter Kamari, and she's a Black trans artist. She has really soulful music. I would call it like a sound garden. Anyways, the interview with her is going to be playing on Trans Positive on KBOO Community Radio on the first Tuesday of September at 6 p.m. So check it out if you'd like. She's a really amazing up-and-coming performer. So,
And what day is that?
thank you. And the Arts Festival was incredible. I really enjoyed it. I'm not sure what day of the week it is. It's the first Tuesday.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Mr. Graham, do you have anything you'd like to add to?
Thank you for asking. I wasn't expecting that, but we just launched a new economic development program called the Entrepreneurial Opportunity Loan Program. It's only for startups. And it's patient money, and it allows anyone who wants to start a business financing The interest rate is actually, it's patient money, so therefore you don't pay it back until after a year. It's, because a lot of times you borrow money, they want it back immediately. So you don't pay it back until after a year. The interest rate for that, however, during that first 12 months, interest rate is only 0.5%. And it's the best deal in town because interest rates are going to be going up in order to slow the economy down. But this will be 0.5.
And it's fixed?
It's fixed.
Oh, good.
It's also a partnership between it's one of the first of the kind for Oregon City, a partnership between Clackamas Federal Credit Union and MESO, which is the Micro Enterprise Service of Oregon, and the city. So a three-way partnership to provide assistance, financial assistance to startups. So it's a first for Oregon City.
Cool. That's
Congratulations.
exciting. Yeah. Hopefully they'll help with our downtown and other areas. Yeah.
Anybody else? Okay.
8:30.
At officially 8:30 PM, we adjourn the meeting.